Hello and welcome to Two Car Pros. Today we're going to show you how to replace the headlight bulb for a Toyota Prius between the years of 2004 and 2009. Let's jump right in. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is break the lug nuts loose on this wheel, and eventually we're going to remove that wheel because we need to remove this inner fender liner in order to get to the headlight. I'm working on the passenger side because this is the side the bulb happens to be out on. If it's on the driver's side, you're going to do the same thing but in a mirror. Now let's break those bolts loose. You want to break these loose while they're still on the ground. So you wouldn't really be able to do that in the air. Now the socket I'm using is 13/16 or 21 millimeters. There we go. Now that the lug nuts are loose, we can lift this side of the vehicle safely into the air. I have a great video on that. Check the card. Okay, now with the vehicle up safely, we can go ahead and continue removing the lug nuts. Okay, so to remove the inner liner here, you have to remove a lot of these little body clips. They look like this. They all pull out the same exact way, so I'm going to show you how to do one, but they are located throughout the inner fender, as you can see. So we're going to do one. Just apply this technique to all of the pins inside the inner fender. You can use a small standard screwdriver or a little pick thing I got here. And you just kind of pry out the middle. The middle comes out. You want to keep these in good shape because they're kind of hard to find. You can always order more, of course, if you break them, but there you go. So they're two pieces. You remove the middle piece first, and then the big piece comes, and then, you know, this part of the trim is now relatively free, and we can do that to the rest of the pins inside the inner fender. Once you have all the clips removed, you need to move to the very front of the fender, and it'll be held on by two 10mm bolts. Those gotta go too. There's also a 10mm bolt over here at the very back that I removed. It had a Phillips head on it. I'm not sure if it was standard, but it was 10mm. That bolt needs to go as well. And then of course these two, as I've mentioned. So let's remove those. Looks like this inner fender is not going without a fight. You also have to remove this bolt down here, and of course this little clip. And then I'm really hoping it falls out at that point. One final bolt I did not see due to the angle. Now watch this not be the final bolt. Is located here. It's kind of near the tow hook there. So let's remove that. Okay, so that was the final bolt, so now we can remove the inner fender. Okay, so in order to gain access to the bolt that holds this in, you have to remove this front bumper cover piece. Don't ask me why. So there's a 10mm bolt right up here that needs to come out. So on the top side here, we need to remove these clips. They remove just like the other ones. You pull the middle out, and then the entire clip comes with it, just like that. We need to do it to all of these ones here. These two rubber bump stops here have a Phillips screw inside of them, so those need to go. Moving back to the underside of the car, basically this bolt needs to go, this one needs to go, this one needs to go, that one needs to go, that one over there needs to go as well. You need to remove the inner fender on the driver's side as well. As it turns out, these two bolts over here need to go. This one over here on the far left as well. There's actually three. Basically you want to remove everything that holds on this front piece because it needs to be removed in order to get to one bolt. I recommend if you're doing one light bulb, just go ahead and do the other one as well. Engineers do best. Make it complicated. Okay, so on the driver's side it's the same kind of a thing. You need to remove this bolt, and there's another bolt up there that we removed earlier, but in order to get to it you have to remove the inner fender liner. I'm going to do that off camera because I already showed you how to do it on the other side. It's the same thing, but a reverse, or a mirror. Not a reverse, a mirror of what I was doing earlier. So do that, and this fender thing, or this front bumper I should say, it's like a bumper cover technically, should come off and will give us access to the headlights. Okay, with all the securing mechanisms out of the way, the bumper should lift off, or bumper cover should lift off. I will put a diagram on screen and maybe even link to it in the description because there was a lot holding this sucker on. Now the movement to get this off is a little tricky. You kind of want to dislodge it from this side. And then just kind of, you're like push-pulling it. I always call it firm but gentle. That's what you want to be, firm but gentle. And then the front bumper cover should come right off. Look at that. That's not so bad. So, with the front bumper cover off, we can get to the one bolt we needed to get to remove the headlight in order to gain access to the bulb. You have to remove that bolt right there. That's really the culprit, sort of the fly in the ointment, as it were. So we remove that. I would set this one aside too because it looks a little special. I'm sure all three of them that hold this headlight in place are the same, but these are different from the ones that hold the body on, so I'd put this in a different spot. Okay, so the next bolt we're going to attack is this one. This is one of the three that holds the headlight on. It's 10 millimeters, just like everything else. That's one thing that's nice about working on Japanese cars. At least they're consistent with 10 millimeters. Although their bulb replacement procedures are a little silly. Next, we can attack this bolt at the top of the headlight assembly. Whoa. Try that again. Take two. Now we can attack this bulb. Now we can attack this bolt at the top of the headlight assembly. And this should be the last bolt that holds it all together. Success! Now I can remove the entire lens, and this will give us access to what we need to work on back here. I'm going to unplug these top things, these top bulbs here. They just pinch on the top right there, just so you can see what I'm doing better. This part's not necessary, but it makes it easier. Okay, so this is the back of the housing. Let me get a little zoom action there. There we go. So, on the back, you just pull this plug straight out. I don't even think there's a safety on it. You just kind of pull it straight out. And now you have the lens completely free, and we're going to take it over to the workbench. Okay, so here is the headlight assembly on the workbench. This rubber grommet piece just comes off. This is a waterproofing grommet, so if it's in bad condition, replace it, but this one's in pretty good condition, so we'll leave it alone. This pin looks kind of tricky, but it's not. You grab a Phillips screwdriver, put your thumb over it so it doesn't spring blast you in the eye there. Just let a little tension out, and then you can kind of maneuver itself out. I'll show you how to put it back in. It's pretty simple. And then you can remove the bulb. You don't really care what happens to this bulb, so you can be as careless as you want with it. But the new bulb, please err on the side of caution. So, take a look at your new bulb to ensure it looks just like your old one, see? Now with the new bulb, never ever 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 touch the glass, because the oils from your hands can affect your beam quality. I've also been told that it can lead to fires because the grease from your hands can get on the bulb. I've never seen it happen, but that's what I've always been told, so just don't touch the glass part. You can touch the base part like I'm touching, no problem. So it goes back in the way you removed it, just like this. Nice and in place. That looks pretty good. Okay, so it basically goes like this. So it kind of sits in this cradle, and then you push this side down. I know it's really tough to see with my big fat fingers in there, but I'll show you what it looks like at the end. See that? See, I just put that in there. I put in this side first into this latching mechanism here, and then I put this side underneath this Phillips head screw, and then I'm just going to tighten it down so it doesn't go anywhere while I'm talking. There. So this clip here is holding the light bulb in place so it won't move or jiggle around. Yeah, that looks great. Now we need to put the waterproofing grommet back on. Again, if it's not in good shape, replace it, because this is what's going to keep your light bulb in good shape. You just kind of have to force it in place. It's kind of like this weird bendy rubber that doesn't like to do what you want to do. So I think what we should do is line it up here, you know, slightly off. Put the light bulb in, you know, just like that, and then have it slightly off. And then we'll turn it, which will lock it into place where it needs to be, just like that. Perfect. See that? You see how I locked that? I put it in over here, where this arrow was over here. See if you can see that. Yep, great. So I put this little arrow, see that little arrow just there? It was over here. And then I pushed it all the way down, and then I turned it using these, I imagine that's what these are for, little handles. Turn this in place. You want this as tight as possible without breaking it, so that way the water seals nice and tight. Well, now we can put the headlight back in. We'll plug everything in just the way we found it. Looks like the main headlight bulb. You just push it straight on, just like that. That's easy. And then the accessory and the blinker sockets go on. They just push on. Again, you don't have to remove this assembly to work on it, but it was sure a heck of a lot easier. And then you push this, I think this is the blinker. Yeah, it's the blinker. And then we're going to push it, or put it back in its place for right now. There we go. And I'm going to put one bolt in the top, or that 10mm bolt I took from up here. We're going to put that back. And just this one for right now, because before we go any further, I want to make sure this light works. And you might be asking me, why am I even putting this bolt in? Well, that's so the thing doesn't fall while I'm trying to get in the car and then break and then rip things out, and then it just makes it a bigger headache for me. So one bolt is a safety. I'm going to turn this light off so you guys will know before me if we've done the job right. That's exciting. Is it working? Yeah, it's working. Yay! So if you've done the job correctly, the light should now work. Wow, was that? That was an adventure getting to that bulb. So if you're doing the passenger one, I suggest doing the driver one as well, the driver bulb as well, like I'm about to do. If you are going to do both of them, it's the exact same procedure, just mirrored like I've said. I think this is my third time saying it now. Sorry, I'm kind of a repetitive person. But that makes me thorough, right? It's not repetitive. So now that that is working, let's put the car back together. So we need to put the other two bolts back in that actually hold the headlight assembly to the car. That involves this one, the one I already replaced up top before we tested the headlight. These don't really have a torque spec. Just tight's good. I know everybody wants me to provide torque specs for everything, but not everything needs them. So just tight on these. Tight is good. And the third and final bolt, kind of the Dennis the Menace of the whole job here, is this one on the side. We're going to replace that bolt too. Great, now with all three of those bolts in place, we can start putting the front bumper cover back on. Okay, so now we can put our front bumper cover back in place. You're going to aim this piece here onto these hooks on both sides at the same time. It's a little tricky, but not impossible. Again, you're going to want to be firm but gentle. Oh yes. And this is what it should look like when it's done. I'll give you a little camera tour of what it should look like. So this is what the lips should look like when they meet each other here. It should be flush on each side. Right here where the fender and the bumper liner meet, I just pushed in real hard on that and it snapped back in place. Most of this bumper will snap back in place, so you just got to be firm but gentle. So next, we need to reinstall this bump stop screw right here. There's two of them. So there's one on the left there and one on the right. Just feed them in with your fingers and then you can get a Phillips head screwdriver and tighten them. This will prevent the bumper the bumper cover piece from moving as we continue to work on it. Now, these are the clips we removed earlier. There's 3 of them. That's what they look like here. And you just pull them out like that. And this kind of relaxes this anchor piece here. And then you just insert them to where you want. And then when you push them down, and the pieces expand and hold it in place. There we go. And then the third one over here. There you go. Now the top, this portion here is done. Now we can turn our attention to the underside. Okay, next we need to insert this bolt here. This holds the bumper cover to the fender. And again, I'm only going to show you on one side of the car. You need to do both. So this is the passenger side. You also need to do the driver's side of whatever I'm doing on this side of the car. Okay, so now we can replace the fender liner that we removed earlier. Goes like this. You're going to use those clips we used earlier and just put them back where you found them all. There is a couple bolts that hold them in place like I showed you how to remove and stuff. And you're going to do this for both sides of the vehicle, obviously. On the very bottom, right there, it's just a little 10mm screw bolt, I guess. Just holding on a body trim panel. Now all the panel retaining clips are back in the fender well here. Now we can move on to the front and finish buttoning it up. So this is what the fender liner will look like. We have to force it back into where it needs to go. Just like that. So that way all the bolt places that we took out earlier all line up and look nice. And then we can put on that air splitting dam and that under valance piece we removed earlier. So let's put these bolts back in and move on. So while I'm working down here, I noticed that a bunch of the clips I was using that came out just snapped and broke into nothing because they're 10-year-old plastic. I want to show you guys this real quick. This is a GM and / Chrysler body hardware mounting kit. I know this is a Toyota. I know. I can already hear the comments coming. But it has a lot of really good body clips and stuff. I use these a lot. They're good replacements just for different kind of body clips and stuff. You can get it on Amazon. I think I only paid $20 or so. If you own a car, I would buy one of these just because your clips will go out at some point and they're super useful for putting this thing back together. So off camera, I put the underside back together. There was this front valance piece that kind of all goes together with the inner fender liner. Put the inner fender liner back together. I put the plastic under valance back on. They are all 10mm. So the screws go in the front here. So the screws kind of mount into the plastic pieces, and then the bolts with the fine threads go in the back just there. In case you're wondering, I will put a diagram in here that shows it a little bit better than this. Sorry I wasn't able to do it in real time, but this is what it looks like sort of back together. Now we can move on to putting the wheel back on. Okay, so here's the wheel. We can lift it back on here. I like to put a stud at the top here that I can count on so I can kind of line the wheel with it. So this top stud here lines up with it. So I just always know to put one at the top and it goes on easier. There we go. Great. And we put on our lug nuts. When it comes to lug nuts, you always want to do everything in a star pattern. So a star pattern on here would be here, there, 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 just like you're drawing a star. Again, these are 21mm or 13/16 if you're using SAE. And you can tighten them while the vehicle's off the ground or just cinch them up. But to get the final tighten on, you're going to want to do it on the ground. See, I just walked the lug on. You can wiggle the tire as you're doing it. Kind of helps walk the lug onto the stud there. Everything a star pattern. Always a star pattern. If you don't do it in a star pattern, you risk the wheel falling off. And if you don't torque it, this is something you do have to torque, is wheels. And I'll have that for you in just a moment. I need to get my torque wrench. Some people get away with just using a breaker bar and tightening it to wherever they feel, but since this is YouTube and people like commenting, I will definitely use the torque wrench. You always should. You should just always torque your wheels to the proper spec. I'm just tightening them here while they're easy. I'm only using my wrist. Great. Okay, now we can lower the car back down to the ground. And down she comes. Always lower it down in a slow, controlled descent. So the lug nut torque specs are 76 foot-pounds, so I put it a hair over 75 on this torque wrench. Now this is a heavy-duty torque wrench. You don't need such a crazy one, especially since it's only 76 foot-pounds, as long as you have the proper socket. So, and you're going to torque them in a star pattern because lug nuts are always star patterned. There you go. What I really like about this torque wrench its giveaway point's very loud. And there we go. The lug nuts are properly torqued to 76 foot-pounds. And there you go. It's how you change a headlight bulb on a second generation Prius. It's a little time consuming, but with just the most basic of hand tools, a jack and jack stands, you can save yourself hundreds of dollars. I can't imagine what this would cost at the dealer, but I imagine it would be quite a lot. The headlights themselves, the bulbs are only $10 a piece, so effectively this job only cost $20. It's kind of difficult, but if you just watch the video, you look at the stills, you look at the diagrams I provided you, and if you have any questions, please visit 2carpros.com, where our online automotive experts are standing by ready to help for free 24/7. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you're subscribed. We have a giveaway coming up at 40,000 subscribers, and I'll see you then.